Let's not waste any time. Number 10, Bottle Caps. These days, bottle caps are one of the most enthusiastic collectibles out there. Both kids and adults go to stores, beaches, and even search old bottles for rare designs, limited editions, or vintage ones from long-gone brands. There are entire online communities, apps for trading, and even museums dedicated to them. A good example is the museum from Japan with over 1 million caps. Some collectors have hundreds of thousands, organized by brand, country, or era. Rare caps from pre-1960s breweries or special promotions can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auctions. But go back to 1892 when William Painter invented the modern crown cork bottle cap to perfectly seal carbonated drinks, and these things were designed as nothing more than disposable trash. The whole point was to twist it off and throw it away immediately. No reuse, no value. Factories produced them by the billions, and they ended up littering streets, parks, beaches, and gutters everywhere. Cities treated them as urban waste, swept up with other debris like cigarette butts or candy wrappers. No one in their right mind would think to save one. During World War I and especially World War II, metal shortages gave them temporary value. Governments launched massive scrap drives urging citizens to collect bottle caps for recycling into aluminum and steel for planes, tanks, and weapons. Schoolchildren competed in contests to gather the most, turning in sacks full for patriotic points. But it was duty, not hobby. After the wars, they went right back to being worthless litter. The real collecting craze started in the 1950s when soda companies like Coca-Cola began printing puzzles, games, celebrity pictures, or prize codes inside the cork liners. Kids started peeling them carefully and saving caps, hoping to win bikes or toys. By the 1960s, it became a full-blown phenomenon. Regional breweries released commemorative series for events or anniversaries, and international variations added excitement. Collectors started soaking caps to remove liners with sports stars or pin-ups. Clubs formed across Europe and America, publishing newsletters and catalogs listing thousands of varieties by shape, color, and text. Conventions drew hundreds of enthusiasts trading duplicates. Some specialized in go-withs, caps matching old bottles or ads. The hobby peaked in the 1970s to 1980s with craft beer boom adding artistic designs. Plastic screw caps nearly killed metal crowns, making vintage ones scarcer and more valuable. Today, with sustainability awareness, some artists use caps for massive mosaics or jewelry. That tiny piece of stamped metal, engineered purely to be discarded the second you opened your drink, became a global collecting obsession worth millions in hobby value and nostalgia. Number 9, Seashells. Seashells are perhaps the most innocent and universal collection. Almost every person who has ever visited a beach has come home with a pocket or bucket full. You usually clean them and display them on shelves, in jars, or as home decor. Serious collectors have cabinets with thousands, labeled by species and origin. Rare specimens like the glory of the seashell sell for tens of thousands at auctions. There are books, clubs, and even scientific societies dedicated to conchology. But for most of human history, common seashells washing up on shores were considered absolutely worthless ocean debris. Broken fragments of dead creatures, fit only for grinding into lime for building mortar or fertilizer. Coastal poor might use them as tools, scoops, or cheap ornaments, but to anyone with money or status, they were trash littering the sand. In ancient times, rare shells from distant seas, like cowries or wentletraps, were used as currency in Africa. But everyday local shells? No one bothered. Sailors brought exotic ones home as curiosities, but common clamshells or mussels were kicked aside or used to fill paths. During the Renaissance, wealthy Europeans built cabinets of curiosities, with rare shells imported at great expense. But local beach shells were beneath notice. The Victorian era brought shell mania, therefore middle-class women, inspired by seaside vacations, started crafting elaborate boxes, pictures, and even entire grottos covered in common shells collected from beaches. It was seen as a feminine pastime, artistic but not serious. Definitely not something gentlemen did. Local shells were so abundant they were used as road gravel or chicken feed to help digestion. The shift to widespread collecting came in the 20th century with popular natural history books, field guides, and education, making identification fun and accessible. Tourism boomed shell hunting as family activity. Clubs like the Conchologists of America formed in 1931, publishing journals and organizing hunts. Beaches worldwide have dedicated collectors at low tide, searching for perfect specimens. Today, apps identify shells instantly, and sustainability concerns lead to take-only photos rules on some beaches, making even common shells more appreciated. Those natural cast-offs once ground up for lime or ignored as debris are now cherished symbols of ocean beauty and childhood wonder. Number 8. Matchbooks. Matchbooks are a nostalgic favorite for collectors known as voluminists. People amass millions, with rare ones selling for thousands at auctions or online. Hotels, restaurants, bars, political campaigns, and brands produced beautiful custom covers as free advertising, often with striking graphics, slogans, or artwork. But when safety matches and foldable matchbooks were invented in the late 1800s by companies like Diamond Match, used books were immediate trash. Tossed into ashtrays or streets after striking the last match. Billions littered the ground in the early 20th century, seen as fire hazards or litter. No one saved them until the 1920s to 1930s when creative marketing kicked in. Luxury hotels like the Waldorf Astoria or Ritz commissioned Art Deco or colorful designs, turning matchbooks into souvenirs from glamorous nights out. People started pocketing them from dates, travels, or events. By the 1940s, collecting boomed. Catalogs listed varieties by feature, full-length books, giant ones, or theme, military, airlines, celebrities. Clubs formed, conventions drew hundreds, and newsletters facilitated trades. Some covers had pin-up girls, sports stars, or historical events. Political ones from elections were prized. Rare FDR or Kennedy matchbooks fetch high prices. The hobby peaked in the 1950s to 1960s with billions produced yearly. Smoking bans and disposable lighters killed production in the 1980s to 1990s, making vintage matchbooks scarcer. Today, non-smokers collect for graphic design history or nostalgia. That disposable advertising scrap, meant to be thrown away after lighting a cigarette, became one of the 20th century's most passionate hobbies. Number 7. Postage stamps. Postage stamps are arguably the world's most collected item. Over 60 million philatelists globally, with rare ones selling for millions at auctions like Sotheby's. But when the first adhesive stamp, the penny black, was issued in 1840, used stamps were worthless trash. People steamed or soaked them off envelopes and discarded them without hesitation. Early stamp savers, in the 1840s, mostly women pasting them in scrapbooks, were mocked as eccentric for keeping bits of colored paper. Newspapers ridiculed the hobby as pointless. By the 1860s, it exploded. Albums, catalogs, dealers, and societies formed worldwide. Governments realized beautiful designs encouraged collecting and revenue, issuing commemoratives. Errors like the inverted Jenny became legendary. Colonial powers used stamps for propaganda. Despite early trash status, philately became respectable, even scientific. Today, multi-billion-dollar market with authentication and museums. That sticky government label once discarded is global passion. Number 6. Comic books. Comic books are absolutely everywhere today. Marvel and DC movies gross billions of dollars. Conventions like Comic-Con draw hundreds of thousands of fans dressed as their favorite characters, and rare issues sell for millions at auctions. The first appearance of Superman in Action Comics #1 has sold for over $3 million, and Spider-Man's debut isn't far behind. Collectors store them in protective slabs, grade them for condition, and build entire rooms dedicated to their collections. But go back to the 1930s when comic books first appeared as cheap reprints of newspaper strips, and they were considered pure disposable trash. They were read once by kids and thrown away or used to line birdcages. Parents saw them as worthless, teachers complained they distracted from real reading, and society viewed them as low-class entertainment for the masses. Early comics cost just 10 cents and were printed on cheap newsprint that yellowed and tore easily. No one imagined preserving them. The Golden Age in the late 1930s to 1940s introduced original superheroes, but they were still seen as fleeting fads. The real hate came in the 1950s when psychiatrist Frederick Wortham published Seduction of the Innocent, claiming comics caused juvenile delinquency, violence, and homosexuality. His book sparked massive moral panic. Senate hearings investigated the industry, cities held public comic book burnings where kids were encouraged to throw their collections into fires, and many towns banned certain titles outright. The industry nearly collapsed, creating the strict Comics Code Authority to self-censor content. No more horror, crime, or suggestive stories. Collectors were extremely rare. Mostly odd adult saving, funny books that everyone else discarded. The shift began in the 1960s with fandom. Fans organized conventions, published fanzines, and started recognizing value in old issues. Overstreet Price Guide in 1970 legitimized pricing. By the 1980s to 1990s, speculator boom drove prices sky high, though crashes followed. Today, comic culture dominates global entertainment. Superhero movies are the biggest blockbusters, graphic novels win literary awards, and digital comics reach millions. Collectors grade issues from 1 to 10, with high-grade Golden Age books worth fortunes. Those disposable pamphlets once burned as harmful trash became a cornerstone of pop culture worth hundreds of billions in related media. Number 5, Trading Cards. Trading cards are a massive hobby today. From classic baseball cards to Pokemon, Magic, The Gathering, and sports rookies selling for millions. Kids and adults spend thousands building sets, grading cards for condition, and trading online or at conventions. The most expensive card ever, a Honus Wagner baseball card, sold for over $7 million. But early trading cards inserted into cigarette packs in the late 1800s by companies like Allen and Ginter were nothing more than packaging stiffeners. Thin cardboard to prevent bending. Smokers threw them away or used them as fire starters without a second thought. No one collected seriously. In the 1930s, gum companies like Gaudi included baseball cards with gum, and kids started trading them at school. But parents saw them as junk cluttering pockets. The 1950s Topps cards with bubble gum became phenomenon, but still disposable. Kids flipped them in games or attached to bicycle spokes for noise. The 1980s to 1990s speculator boom overproduced cards, crashing values, but also professionalized collecting with grading services like PSA. Pokemon cards in the late 1990s sparked global frenzy. Kids spent allowances, schools banned trading for gambling, and parents complained about obsession. Rare holographic Charizard cards now sell for hundreds of thousands. Sports rookies like Mickey Mantle or modern stars like Luka Doncic command millions. Digital cards and NFTs extended the hobby. Companies release limited editions to drive collecting. That cardboard trash inserted to sell cigarettes or gum became a multi-billion-dollar industry spanning sports, gaming, and entertainment. Number 4, Wine Corks. Wine corks seem like simple stoppers, but many people collect them in jars, bowls, or craft projects, dating them with notes about the bottle, occasion, or company shared. Corkboards made from collections decorate homes, and some turn them into art or furniture. But for centuries, corks were pure waste, pulled from bottles and discarded immediately. Winemakers and consumers never thought to save them. Early corks were natural cork bark, reused sometimes by poor people for fishing floats or insulation, but mostly trash. The collecting trend started in the 1970s to 1980s when restaurants and wine bars began saving corks from memorable bottles for customers to take home as souvenirs. Wine enthusiasts started jars as memory keepsakes, each cork reminding of a special dinner, vacation, or celebration. By the 1990s, cork recycling programs emerged for sustainability, but collecting remained sentimental. Craft movement exploded. People made trivets, bath mats, bulletin boards, or wreaths from collections. Some collectors focused on rare or vintage corks from famous wineries. With screw caps and synthetic corks rising, natural corks became nostalgic. Apps and communities share collections. That humble bottle stopper once thrown away without thought is now cherished sentimental artifact. Number 3, Ticket Stubs. Ticket stubs from concerts, movies, sports events, or theater fill drawers, scrapbooks, and frames as tangible memories. People look back at stubs from first dates, historic games, or legendary performances. Serious collectors organize them chronologically or by artist, and rare stubs from iconic events like Woodstock or Beatles concerts sell for thousands. But when tickets were first printed in the 1800s, stubs were literal trash. The torn portion discarded at entry. No one saved them. Early 20th century fans occasionally kept whole tickets as souvenirs from big events, but stubs specifically? Worthless. The habit grew in the 1950s to 1960s with rock concerts and sports booms. Fans started taping stubs into diaries or wallets. By the 1980s to 1990s, scrapbooking popularized preserving them. Digital tickets threaten the tradition, but physical stubs remain prized. Collectors seek stubs from cancelled events or historic moments. That proof of entry scrap once tossed at the gate became powerful nostalgia trigger. Number 2, autographs. Celebrity autographs sell for thousands or millions at auctions. Signed photos, albums, or memorabilia authenticated and slabbed like cards. Fans line up at conventions, and forgeries spawn entire detection industry. But for most of history, a signed piece of paper was casual. Often thrown away after receiving. Early autograph collecting began in the 1800s with autograph albums, where friends signed sentimental notes, but celebrity ones were rare. Fans started asking in the early 20th century with movie stars, but many autographed items were discarded. The hobby exploded in the 1950s with Hollywood Golden Age. Fans mailed photos for signing. Authentication became crucial with forgeries. Today, companies like PSA/DNA certify signatures. Sports autographs dominate value. Babe Ruth balls fetch millions. That quick signature, once casual and disposable, became valuable investment. Number 1, rocks and minerals. Rock and mineral collecting is one of the most universal hobbies. Almost every child brings home interesting stones, and adults build displays, hunt geodes, or polish specimens. Gem shows draw thousands, and rare minerals sell for fortunes. But common rocks and minerals were once just debris. Kicked aside on paths, used for building, or ground up. Wealthy Victorians collected rare crystals in cabinets of curiosities, but ordinary rocks from local fields? Absolute trash, fit only for children or peasants. Serious geology began in the 1800s, but everyday rock hunting was seen as childish. The 20th century changed everything. Scouting programs encouraged it, field guides appeared, and rockhounding clubs formed. Geode hunting in the U.S. Midwest became family tradition. Today, apps identify rocks, and lapidary arts turn common stones into jewelry. Those ordinary pebbles once ignored or used as gravel are now educational treasures, sparking lifelong interest in earth science. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.